This week we watched Furiosa, a Mad Max saga.
Weird thing about the Mad Max movies, I guess now the relaunch of the franchise with last one with Tom Hardy, is it's kind of one of those IPs where you don't really need to have prior knowledge of anything else to to enjoy it. Like I watched it with a friend who had never seen the Tom Hardy one, and he was like, "Yeah, it works as a standalone, even though I've never seen the other ones. I could still enjoy it." I'm still kind of iffy on the recasting of Charlize Theron and going on until you enjoy it, but I understand that the issue was the fact that they couldn't make her look 20 years younger digitally.
But I do think that this is good in terms of like taking time to do character development and actually like flesh out this character who was very mysterious during the first film. So it was really cool to see her story. I too was kind of like, I kind of wish Charlize Theron was still playing a role because I thought she did like such a wonderful job as Furiosa. For the young person who plays the young Furiosa, it was a combination of the that actress and also Anya Taylor-Joy.
Mm-hmm.
So they were able to kind of do something. So it's not like they couldn't do something with the Charlize Theron. I guess maybe the relationship with her and George, because of that whole situation with her, George, Tom Hardy, maybe that's the reason why she wasn't able to like come back in that full capacity. However, I still think Anya Taylor-Joy did a great job.
Like I said, I saw it with a friend, and he was concerned. He was like, "Oh, so this is like the movie that you watched. This takes place before or after?" I was like, "No, it takes place technically chronologically after." It makes it seem like right after this movie, the next movie happens, and the age difference in both Charlize and Anna Taylor-Joy, I mentally cannot do that. They could have still had Charlize in the movie.
Because the pacing of it was kind of off. There were gaps in time which didn't really make any sense. It could have been, we could have started with very young Furiosa when she's, we know where she comes from. We see her mom get taken. We see her meet Dementis, all of that. And then, you cut to Anya Taylor-Joy and have that story progress in her, driving the rig and learning how to do all that stuff. And then cut to Charlize Theron, have her, being the person of stature in Citadel, to turning to taking the girls, going on the road, and that's when you can end it there, and then we know that the next movie would be Fury Road, right? So I think that they could have gone that right, but then again, it would require incorporating Charlize in it, and I feel like that was the issue. The issue was like, I guess for some, I don't know what the reasons are of why they didn't want her to come back exactly, but like, or why she might not have wanted to come back, but I feel like not having her was kind of a detriment to this film because it's just like it's her story, so it feels weird to not really have her there. I had to get used to George's style of making movies, where it feels like someone is like pressing the three times faster button, like when you're just like trying to speed up like some footage, and that's what it looked like, and I was like, oof, it kind of hurt my eyes for a little bit because I was just like, why is it like that? But then I remember like that's how he made the last one. The cinematography looks fantastic. Like all of the shots when they're in the wasteland, but also like in those like industrial spaces, all of that looked really good. So the production design, the costume design, the makeup, the hair, the prosthetics, like all of that looks phenomenal. And especially when you watch it on the big screen, like it really does look great. Like the wasteland looks so expansive, and you can see how like desolate and hard it is to like be out there and what that would do to you mentally.
Beyond the cinematography, the editing is beautiful. I love cross dissolves and the intercuts, like when she's thinking about the stars, and then the dust cloud comes up, or the blood, the sky blood, or the red powder, and then you see it intercut with Chris Hemsworth's character. I love that. I love those touches visually, amazing. It kind of reminds me of those corny transitions, well, viewed corny, that George used to do. He would do like a closing and opening iris and transition scenes, like stuff like that. I love when directors do those kind of things. I mean, the only weird prosthetic I think for me was, I think at times you could see where Chris Hemsworth's beard, like this part would have moved and only this part was moving, like where the chin is, but the sides of the jaw weren't moving when he moved his face, and also the prosthetic nose. But other than that, I thought the prosthetics and stuff involved in the project were good as well. This was, to me, Chris Hemsworth's best role. Like, this is
the role that I could easily point to and be like, yeah, he
Mhm.
did a great job in this. Because I think we're all used to just seeing him as Thor and as the action guy, like in Extraction and whatever. And he kind of just, I don't know. Again, he's one of those actors like you kind of know what you're getting from him. So the fact that he really did something different and was offered a different kind of role where he wasn't playing like the hero, a really bad dude who just had a really cynical outlook, like that was really cool. And I'm actually really happy that he was able to like get a role like this to kind of show his that he, he's multi-talented. Like he has other things going on and he can pull it out. Like, is it like the best performance you've ever seen? Like no. But like I think for him, I think he did a really good job. And I was very proud of his performance. I think he was kind of the star of the show. Like every time he was on screen, I was very engaged and entertained. I like that he didn't quite look like himself because of the prosthetic stuff. And so you can kind of not, it's Chris Hemsworth, but also you can kind of let that go to the wayside and just like be invested in this particular character as he's presenting it. And I thought the fact that he was just like maniacal and crazy and like didn't care about pain or anything like that was really interesting for him to play. And I thought Anya Taylor-Joy did a good job too. She's really silent throughout most of this film. And I think that she's an actress who's like really qualified to do that because her and I think most of her the time her mouth is covered. So you're only really seeing her eyes. And I feel like her eyes are able to communicate so much. And you can feel that rage and that desire for revenge. And I think she did an amazing job in this. Like, even though, yes, would it have been great for sure, at least to be in this? Absolutely. But like, I feel like Anya really understood what she needed to do, understood the character of Furiosa, and was able to articulate that really well without barely saying anything.
People had issues with it, like, oh, why is she talking? Oh, that's sexist. But if you watch Mad Max movies, the Mad Max or the protagonist, I'm gonna just call the protagonist because Mel Gibson did the first three, Tom Hardy did the fourth one, and now she's the protagonist. They don't speak in these movies at all. Like Tom Hardy did not speak in the last one, and it was not an issue. But now, because Anya Taylor-Joy is a woman leading the project, you assume it's sexist now that she's not speaking. Like, no, that's literally how George Miller likes these characters. Like their expressions tell everything that's happening to them and for them. The main guy, the guy she used to drive in the rig with, Tom Burke.
Yeah.
I need him in more stuff
Mm-hmm.
because he was in a show called The Three Musketeers on BBC. That was my shit. And then it stopped. I needed Tom Burke and more things. Like he popped up on the screen. I was like, oh man, that's Tom Burke.
Yeah, I was slightly confused on one thing, which was that she comes to the to Immortan Joe with all of those guys. She comes to that place, right? She's a little kid, and then they put her in the cave where she's supposed to be one of his wives, like when she comes of age or whatever. But then she like escapes and just joins like the crew who drives and does the missions. And I was curious on like how that was able to happen, mainly because she's a woman. And I feel like, did they have women a part of their crew? Did they know that she was the same little girl? Like after a while, like did they not realize that the girl who cut her hair and left is the same person who's driving your rig? Like, did they not realize that? I don't know. I was very curious about that.
I look at it. Well, that's one of the things where you have to kind of glance over and not focus too much on. Especially considering
Oh,
when she and it's
okay.
weird. It's weird. Like I could assume like, oh, after the first truck battle thing, everybody assumes like, oh, that's Tom Burke's character, that's his assistant, that's his aide. He found her roaming the wasteland
Hmm.
like a random woman, and now that's his partner. She was like, don't touch. That's his partner, or whatever, whether sexual or not. Everybody knows don't mess with him because he's the main dude who does the transport for the kingdom. Well, yeah, for the Citadel. So you don't mess with
Hmm.
her. So I assume that. But then when they go back, when he's talking about, oh, I'm gonna help you set up, we gonna escape, you know, they go back. She's still sleeping in the caves with the rest of the war boys. You mean to tell me she always goes back to that cave to sleep and nobody realizes that it's a woman at all? Like I could understand her
That's
escape.
my question is.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's weird because after this is all over, she goes back again because she goes to get the girls. Like, isn't that the so it's like she does, and then she plants Dementis in that place in the Citadel, and the tree grows. I'm just like, you were there for quite a bit before
Yeah,
you took the girls and left. So like, how did we not know that this was the same? I don't know.
and
Plot
that's
hole.
the thing. Like you said, the pacing and editing make no sense. They could have had Charlie show up at the end of the movie because that means a lot of time has transitioned. Trees don't grow up in like a matter of
Mhm.
weeks. So, and it's clear that he's been there for a while because he's now emaciated. You know, so it was a good movie. Like now, kind of out after leaving and watching the movie, I did want to go back and watch like the whole series. You know, from even the Mel Gibson stuff from the first three, and then the Tom Hardy one.
I hope this movie does stay in the theaters for a long time. I actually feel like this is a movie where you really should see it in the theater. Like some movies you can see at home. I don't feel like this is one of them. I feel like this is
Yeah.
something that you should see on a big screen. But so far it only made like $25 million. And the budget is like 160 something $1 million. So that's and people were like, this was like the worst opening Memorial Day weekend opening in decades. And I was actually shocked by that because one, there were people in my theater, so I'm like, I know people actually went to see this movie,
I mean,
but two, like this is one of the bigger movies that I would assume people would be interested in going to see.
everybody assumes, oh, movies are back. Barbie and Oppenheimer. Yeah. People are forgetting that, those movies got heavily promoted due to the fact that behind the scenes, the studio execs were pretending to agree with the Writers and Actors Guild and pushed all their money into promoting these two projects because the studios realized if the strike goes through, they won't be able to release movies for like a number of months. Like to the point where Barbie, like Mattel made Barbie's Dream House for real. You know, they went all in on marketing, and I do think the studio has gotten lazy and said, "No, what? We don't got to market this stuff much because we could always put it back." These studios also own the streaming platforms.
It's just such a weird it's such a weird thing to just be like, well, we could just put it on streaming, like because these movies were not really made for that. So it just feels like such a disservice to the like craftsmanship of actually making these movies. The appetite for the film has to be there, and I just assumed that because it was a part of the Fury Road like Mad Max franchise that there would be an appetite for it. But some people were saying that like because it's a side character that maybe people weren't going to be that interested, and because it wasn't Charlize Theron, people weren't going to go see it, and I don't know, other little reasons. I was just like, that's I don't know, that's weird to me. That felt weird, especially because in the run of like bigger movies, but also just mid-budget movies that have been coming out recently that haven't been doing that well. It's just very. I'm kind of worried. Like, I hope people want to still go to the movie theaters.
I was having this exact conversation with a friend. I was like, "Yeah, people don't go to theaters anymore because these streamers can put it on their platform. They don't really care." And I was like, "Why don't people want to go to the movie theaters and watch these movies anymore?" And I was like, "That for very few people, the idea of going to a movie theater and sitting down for like 2 hours and enjoying something and being fully engrossed in it is dead. Like you have an age group of kids who've grown up with a tablet in the front of their faces who can swipe to anything, and like the idea of the movie theater died once people like on any monetary budget could go to Best Buy or Office Depot, buy a projector and a projector screen for their house, or go to Walmart, not even on Black Friday anymore. Go to Walmart any day a week and get like a 60-inch screen for like $400 and with surround sound. The
Mm.
idea of sitting in a theater and engrossed in that environment has kind of died in like the last 10 or so years. Due to both studios and to a point to the theaters, because at that time, the movie theaters are also charging $20 for a ticket. So, and that just drove the impetus more. Like, why am I gonna watch this now when I can wait a bit and watch it at home on my, my 50-inch TV and my couch with my surround sound and still get the cinematic or theater experience. So, did you like that clip? Well, you can listen to the entire podcast because the 16mm Film Crew podcast is available on all major podcast platforms.